When it comes to buying a home, we all want to feel like we're making a smart investment, right? But what if I told you that some homes in the Bay Area are a financial disaster waiting to happen? They might look great on paper, but can quickly turn into a nightmare of unexpected costs, legal battles, and regret. Now, let me be clear. I'm not telling you what to buy or what not to buy. This is just a warning so that you don't jump into one of these properties without knowing the risk. I've seen too many buyers get blindsided by costly surprises, and I want to make sure that doesn't happen to you. Hey, before we jump in, I put together a free first-time home buyer's guide to help you avoid these pitfalls and make a smart decision. Grab yours now. Just click the link in the description or DM me. Now let's get into the types of homes you should think twice before buying in the Bay Area. Let's talk about HOA horror properties. By the way, this is not just for condos. This includes all types of homes with HOAs. You know, at first glance, HOAs might seem like a good thing. After all, they keep the neighborhood looking nice, right? But in some cases, an HOA can turn into a nightmare. Sure, I can see how a strict HOA can be good and even beneficial in, say, a condo complex. You are very close to your neighbor, so anything you do can affect your neighbors right away, right? But this isn't just about condos with high fees. Strict HOA on single-family homes can be just as bad. Some HOAs have ridiculous restrictions like banning certain paint colors, limiting what cars you can park in your own driveway, even restricting holiday decorations, or worse, HOA board members that are a little bit over the top. I got an actual story about my own experience with our own HOA and also a clip that I want to share with you. Let me first tell you about our own story. There was a lady in charge of our neighborhood. Her volunteer job was to check and make sure that everyone's front lawn was weed-free and generally complies with our HOA standards. Received a citation in the mail that says we have weeds growing on our driveway. By the way, she lives a couple of houses away from us, and we even say hi to each other. Anyway, the citation had an illustration where the weeds were growing, which, to be honest with you, confused the heck out of me. You see, our driveway, just like any other driveway, is concrete. So I was perplexed as to what she was referring to. I went outside to check, but let me just show you this. I think I might have some weeds growing right now.
Okay, so these are the type of weeds that I'm saying, in between the cracks, like that way. See?
What I did was I just got rid of her. Sorry, I meant I got rid of the weeds. I didn't argue. I didn't walk over and told her you could have easily pointed this out to me instead of drawing a freaking illustration and then sending it to the board and then mailing it to me. If you're wondering why I have weeds growing now, it's because she moved. She no longer lives in our neighborhood, and there's no one that replaced her volunteer position. Here's another example. This one is from Florida.
It's the latest conflict between a Valley Homeowners Association and a resident. All comes down to that pickup truck. The guy says it's too big for his driveway, but the HOA won't let him park it on the street.
It's a Ford F-350 crew cab long bed.
This truck is the center of a conflict between Dwayne Martinez and his homeowners association. It won't fit in his garage, and if he parks it in the driveway, it hangs over the edge.
It's an unmodified truck. It's not like we extended it or did anything crazy to it. It just doesn't fit.
And to make things worse, he's not allowed to park on the street either.
You will get...
Okay. Here's another thing that you have to watch out for with HOAs. You might start with $100 a month in HOA fee, but it can jump to hundreds of dollars over time. Increased fees are a part of life. Nothing stays the same, but sometimes you wonder, what the heck am I paying for with these increases? Since we have lived in our home, our HOA dues have increased, but at least we have an amenity that is well taken care of, and that is our pool and some greenery. Some HOAs barely have any amenities, and yet they keep increasing every year. Let's talk about power-hungry board members. Some neighborhoods have boards that enforce rules unfairly or make it impossible to get approval for things like solar panels or landscaping changes. I already mentioned to you my ex-neighbor that took the time to draw an illustration and mail the citation to us versus just pointing it out to us. Well, before that, we also had another run-in with her. We changed out our front windows. Mind you, it was the same style and color. Just needed to change it because it wasn't working properly anymore. I also got another citation for that because we did not file the necessary paperwork to let them know what we were doing. Okay, let me be clear here. I'm not saying that in these instances, they were in the wrong and had no business telling us what to do. We were in the wrong in all these instances. My point is, HOAs can be a nightmare to deal with. So what do you do? Okay, well, before buying into an HOA community, read the rules, ask about past fee increases, review the meeting minutes, and talk to neighbors to see if the HOA is reasonable or a power trip waiting to happen. Because once you buy into a community that is governed by an HOA, there is no going around it. You have to abide by the rules. Well, technically, you can maybe sue them or join the board and try to make your own changes. Next up, the trapped in a lawsuit home. Now, speaking of HOA nightmares, let's talk about something even worse. Buying a home that's already stuck in the legal battle. This is where things get really messy. Some homes come with legal baggage that can turn into a financial and emotional nightmare. Here's what you need to watch out for. If a condo or a neighborhood is in the middle of a lawsuit, you might not even qualify for a loan. Lenders see these as red flags, and suddenly that dream home you put an offer on, financing could fall apart. Now let's move on to another huge legal headache: unpermitted additions and remodels. You've probably seen homes on the market that say something like this: bonus room, unpermitted ADU, converted garage. Sounds like a great deal, right? More square footage, maybe even some rental income. But here's the problem. If the city finds out that work was done without permits, they can force you to tear it down, even after you already bought the house. That's right. You can't tell them that I bought it like this. You're now responsible for it. Here's how this turns into a nightmare. A neighbor complains, which happens more than you think. And then the city can send an inspector to check that out. If the work isn't up to code, you could be forced to remove it or pay thousands in fines and retroactive permits. Some lenders won't even finance homes with unpermitted work, which can make it hard to sell later. Here's a real life example. I've personally seen a case where the new homeowners were forced to demolish a fully finished garage conversion because it didn't meet city codes. They lost over $40,000 just like that. So before buying, make sure to check city records and permits. If the seller says it's unpermitted but it's fine, do not take their word for it. You might be paying for their mistake later on. All right, maybe you're not dealing with a lawsuit or an unpermitted addition, but what if the home you're buying comes with tenants? Let me tell you, this is one of the biggest mistakes buyers make. You might think, I'll just give them notice, right? And I'll move in. Nope. Not in the Bay Area. And depending on where you live in the Bay Area or where the home is located, tenants have very strong protections. And if you don't follow the exact legal process, you could be stuck with them indefinitely. Here's what can go wrong. Some cities like San Francisco, Oakland, Richmond, Hayward, they have strict rental control and eviction laws. If a tenant refuses to leave, you can't just kick them out. You might even have to pay them thousands of dollars in order for them to relocate. And even if you want to sell your home, you might be forced to sell it with tenants inside, which can lower the price significantly since most buyers won't want to have a tenant that they need to remove. In Richmond, for example, if you want to move into your home, you have to do the following. Number one, you need to live there 3 years if you're going to kick out a tenant. Number two, you have to give them 60 days notice. Number three, pay a relocation fee if the tenant qualifies as a low income, disabled, or elderly. Number four, file with the rent program and possibly go through an eviction lawsuit. And like I mentioned, you can't just sell the house. If you're going to be selling it with the tenant inside, good luck with that. Most buyers will either walk away or demand a massive discount. That means you need to be offering cash for keys, basically paying your own tenant to leave. But if they know the laws, they can negotiate for a ridiculous amount. You can also go through the Ellis Act eviction process which is, again, complicated and expensive. So before even buying a tenant-occupied home, talk to a real estate attorney and research local rental laws. You might think you're buying a home, but if it comes with the wrong tenant, you're basically inheriting a full-time legal battle. All right, so maybe your home isn't in a lawsuit, or there are no unpermitted additions and no tenants, but what if it's in a literal disaster zone? Buying a home in the Bay Area means dealing with earthquakes, wildfires, floods, and landslides. But some homes are in ultra-risk areas where insurance is either crazy expensive or flat out unavailable. So here's what you need to watch out for. If your home is in a high-risk fire area, think Oakland Hills, Orinda, or parts of Santa Rosa, your insurance options could be slim. Many homeowners are losing their policies altogether and being forced into high-cost state-backed plans. Then there are flood-prone homes. Areas like Coyote Creek in San Jose or parts of Redwood City have seen massive flooding issues in the past, and FEMA flood maps are constantly changing. If your home gets reclassified into a flood zone, your mortgage lender will require you to carry flood insurance, which can cost thousands a year. Landslide risk is also real as well. Some hillside homes in Berkeley Hills, Montclair, and Pacifica are literally falling apart after heavy rains. If soil underneath your house shifts, your home could be condemned. And good luck finding insurance for that. Let us not forget about earthquake danger. After all, we are in California. This is a big one. Sometimes, some homes in the Bay Area sits right on top of fault lines. A major earthquake can cause foundation cracks, structural damage, or even make your home unlivable. Here are a few spots you should think twice about. Homes in the Hayward Fault. Consult maps, but these runs through Berkeley, Oakland, Hayward, Fremont, just to name a few. Then we have the San Andreas Fault. It hits Daly City, Pacifica, and other parts of the peninsula. Then we also have the Calaveras Fault, which cuts through Milpitas and San Ramon, just to name a few cities. Here's the thing, before you buy, do two things. Check hazard maps and historical data. Don't just rely on the listing. Research the fire, flood, and earthquake risk before making an offer. Talk to your insurance company first. Get a quote before buying. If no one wants to insure the house, that's a red flag. Next up, this one for me sometimes is hard to explain to first-time home buyers. The endless money pit of fixer-uppers. I talk to a lot of buyers and I get a lot of, "We are fine with fixer-uppers." And usually I try to finesse the question of, have you ever done a remodel before? Do you know what it takes and how much it costs to do remodels? And look, I get it. Some fixer-uppers can be great investments, but some of them are just never-ending money pits, especially if you are not handy or have no experience in doing home renovation projects. Just because you watch a couple of HGTV, episodes doesn't make you an expert, okay? And so sure, it might look like a simple project at first until you start peeling back the layers. Here's what could go wrong. Foundation issues. Anything with a cracked foundation, walk away unless you have 100,000 plus to burn. Old electrical and plumbing. Rewiring an old house can cost you upwards of 50,000. Termite damage. Some homes look fine until you realize the wooden beams are being held together by dust. I already mentioned this, but it's worth repeating. If the seller cuts corners on permits, guess who's responsible when the city finds out? Again, that would be you. There's no such thing as grandfathered in or you bought it like that. To help out with this, always get a professional inspection and check permit records before buying. Whenever possible, bring a contractor to give you estimates of what is needed to be done. And remember, add at least 20% to the estimates that they give you. Because like I said, some homes are money pits in disguise. Okay, let's wrap this up with one of the most overlooked problems. Buying a home in a bad location. You know the saying, in real estate, it's all about location, location, location. But I have seen a couple of times when a buyer is starting to get desperate, they start compromising on some things. Location is not one of them. Years ago, I had a client that was looking for a specific house. They needed a house that can fit 2 families. Their budget was really restrictive. We found a home that met what they needed in terms of the size, and it was in their price range. Now, the thing is, the property was already located in a major street. That's strike number 1. I'm talking about 3 lanes, each, going both ways. This street is actually more commercial, but there are still single-family home residences in the area. Strike number 2 was it was also close to the freeway. You can see and hear all the freeway noise from their house. Strike number 3, which in the beginning they thought was okay, but I pointed out that there was no guarantee that it would remain that way. The house was right next to a vacant land that was owned by the state. The previous owner, or the seller, stated at that time that for years that lot has remained empty and unused. He said for over 20 years. Fast forward almost 10 years later, that vacant land is where the state parks all their heavy machinery when they are working and fixing the freeways. So just imagine the noise and the dust that goes along with it. Okay, you also have to watch out for commercial zones or if the area that you're buying into has a lot of new homes being built. If a huge apartment complex goes up next door to you, your view and home's value could tank. With new developments, if you are going to sell your property, you will be competing with these new builds, and usually when things slow down, the builders can often offer tons of incentives that regular resale properties can't match. So there you have it, the types of homes you should never buy or be very cautious about buying in the Bay Area. They might look like good deals up front, but they can cost you thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars down the line. Before you buy, make sure you're prepared. I put together a free first-time home buyer's guide filled with insider tips and mistakes to avoid. Again, click the link in the description and grab your copy, or send me a DM. That's much easier. Call, text, or email me if you're looking to buy or sell in the Bay Area. I'm here to help you make a smart move. Subscribe for more real estate insights, and I'll see you in the next video.